versus demand. These two words may sound synonymous, and you may think they have the exact same meaning. However, they are two sides of the same coin when it comes to the space of getting the respect from your patients as a healthcare professional. One of them represents an automatic sense of entitlement and an expectation that just because you're a healthcare professional, your patients have to respect you, whereas the other one is something that's earned via your presence, your demeanor, how you conduct yourself, how you communicate, and at the end of the day, how you treat them. So in this video, I'm going to distinguish between what commanding and demanding respect are, what elements both of them entail, which one is the better one in terms of gaining the trust, respect, and the validation and the support of your patients, and how you can incorporate that in your daily practice as a healthcare professional. Everybody, thank you very much as always for your engagement, support, and presence. My name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from English as a second language backgrounds become more collaborative, empathetic, compassionate, and influential communicators in order to earn the trust and better relationships with patients, as well as gain authority, credibility, influence, and impact in that space. So if you are, say, either residing in a English-speaking country, but you are from your first language is not English, even though you speak it at a decent level, or on the other hand, you are residing in a country where English is not the first language, but you're working in an environment where predominantly your patients are native English speakers, and you want to learn how to communicate in a way that not only reflects you as also the way in which you can get a better understanding of where your patients are coming from, the differences and diversity that you see in them, and how you can tailor your communication in order for them to really see where you're coming from and build that credibility, impact, and trust with them. You absolutely come to the right place. So in this video, I am going to obviously be talking about the differentiating factors between commanding and demanding respect. Now, respect is also a concept that I have very widely talked about on not only on this channel, but also on my LinkedIn page. There is a playlist of videos on respect which I'll leave towards the end of the video, but this is just one of the many posts that I have made on LinkedIn in the past about respect, and everyone knows my stance on respect. But this video, I wanted to really focus on this distinguishing between what commanding and demanding respect is. Before I do that though, let's kind of bring the story back to me and how respect was drilled into me as a child, and not only as a child but also as someone who was raised in a collectivist, hierarchical, and quite a conservative Southern Asian culture. So, and in this culture, this is what you were told from a young age, that you respect your elders, and in particular, you respect anyone who's in a position of authority. So whether you are a lawyer, whether you're a teacher, or in this case, a healthcare professional. And you never questioned them, you never gave them any kind of pushback, and you just took your word, you took their word for it, and you just do as they are told, basically. And this is not an uncommon scenario from people who come from very similar countries and cultures, such as the one that I came from. So regardless, you might be from Eastern Europe, you might be from the Middle East, you might have the same experience. So where the culture is quite collectivist, is quite communal, and there is a very strict sense of hierarchy, which makes getting the respect of your patients a lot easier. And you're not really going to be challenged or receive any kind of pushback from your patients just because of the fact that you're a healthcare professional. That in itself, in their books, becomes you gain their respect automatically. However, when the same people, let's say for my example, when I was back in the day, when I was a high school teacher in Australia and UK and Thailand, I realized that in Australia and in the UK, I was not entitled to that respect just because I was a teacher. Here, it's very different. So, everyone is treated the same way. Everyone is an equal sort of individual. No one gets special type of treatment. And also, people really viewed teachers over here in the way that, you're sort of being of service to them. So you're sort of helping them and you're sort of giving yourself to, in this case, educate their children. So, and in that way, it was not just the students who showcased that, but also their parents. So that was quite a shock to me, I have to admit, when I stepped into classrooms for the first time and started to teach. This was not just common in high school, but this was also very common when it came to situations where I had to teach even the younger kids from time to time. So, you would get a lot of back chat, I would be challenged a lot, and I would get a lot of pushback. And at that point was, instead of really letting that get to me and just assuming that, because I'm a teacher, that I'm entitled to have the respect of students, I knew that it's never going to work that way. So I sort of, through my professional development and my practice and all that, I came up with different ways in which I eventually commanded and earned the respect of my students. It's no different from when you're coming from, you're a healthcare professional from a non-English speaking background, and you might be working in a country or say in a hospital or a healthcare setting where you're going to have patients who are from native English speaking backgrounds, and particularly if the environment is much more multicultural and diverse. And that culture shock can be quite uncomfortable at the early days. So you're going to get patients who are going to call you by your first name. You're going to get people who are going to interrupt you all the time. And we did look at interruptions in last week's video. And you will also get patients questioning your recommendations as if like you're on trial in like a court case. And this might be jarring, and this might be a little bit of a blow, a shock to the system, let's just put it that way. And I just want to say at this point is that what you need to remember is that respect is not an entitlement. It's the energy that you command, not a status that you just earn automatically or you demand just because you are a healthcare professional. And respect shouldn't be a cultural obligation either. Now, it may work in the culture that you came from, but if you are working in, say, a predominantly either Anglo-Saxon or in an environment where people speak English as a first language and in a more Western environment, it's a very, very different ball game. And so instead of, it's something that you need to earn, and don't expect patients to just give it to you blindly and or expecting it from them blindly. You need to command it through your presence, your tone, your clarity, and how you make them, your patients in this case, feel heard. So let's look at some of the ways in which commanding versus demanding respects are polar opposites of each other. Demanding respect could sound something like, you need to listen to me, I am the healthcare professional. I've been doing this for years. Don't question me, or I'm the expert, I know best. This is how it's done and has always been done. Now, take a step back and imagine if someone said that to you. It comes across as from a place of ego and fear, and it can really push your patients away. On the other hand, when it comes to commanding respect, you can say things like, it's going to sound like, let's walk through your options together with your patient. I can see where you're coming from. Here's what I recommend, and it would work best for you, and why I believe it would be the best option for you. You don't have to agree with me right away, but let's look at the facts together. If you differentiate between the phrases used in both forms of respect, the latter is grounded, confident, and calm, and it builds influence, trust, and credibility, especially in English-speaking systems where patients want to be involved in decisions and they want to have autonomy and they want to have agency on their treatment and what kind of care they're getting from an healthcare professional. Now, here's where a lot of English as a second language healthcare professionals may feel stuck when it comes to commanding respect from their patients. What normally happens that you try to sound professional and you want to be seen as the expert, and you also may vocalize and say that you are the expert, and you might avoid confrontation to try to sound polite in front of them. You let patients leave the conversation out of fear of sounding rude. And we looked at this in last week's video in the space of interruption and what happens when patients walk all over you and why that happens. And when your patients don't trust you, you assume that it's because you don't speak the fluent English, or your accent is problematic, or whatever the case may be. But most of the time, it's not. It's actually the communication and the energy that you're putting into that communication that's the main issue. And that energy comes from learning to speak clearly, not just fluently, hold your ground without raising your voice, acknowledge emotions without losing authority, and leading the consultation, but at the same time, making it a collaborative interaction where the patient also has agency and autonomy over it. So, which brings us to the next part of how you can, as a healthcare professional from an English as a second language background, start to command the respect of your patients. Some of the strategies that I would recommend are setting the tone early. So start your consultations with clarity. You can say something like, here's what we're going to cover today. Feel free to ask me questions anytime. So I can give an example of last year when I had my left clavicle surgery last year, and I was very, very anxious and I was very nervous about that. I've highlighted that in a past video. You can go in and check that out. And I really want to know from the surgeon what I was getting myself into, how the procedure is going to look like, how what the side effects are going to be, how am I going to feel after a few days, what exercises I should try to get my shoulder back to normal. And any other surgeon who is saved from a background where they're not used to it, they might feel quite threatened and insecure when a patient, in this case me, has asked this question so often. But in this case, my surgeon was very, very transparent and thorough and open, and he basically went through the whole step-by-step, very detailed of what I can expect, what are some of the side effects of the medication that I'll be on after surgery, how my arm is going to feel just immediately after a few hours after surgery. And so everything was not just delivered to me verbally, but I also got heaps of written documentation as well. And all of the consultations that I had pre-appointment, pre-operation was, I felt much more reassured and I felt much more prepared. And I remember even when I was actually sharing my concerns and my anxieties with the surgical staff, they were all very, very reassuring and saying that this is a very routine procedure, but I can understand that you feel nervous because you haven't had a surgery before, but you are in good hands and we will take very good care of you. And I certainly can attest to the fact that it was such a good experience. Not that I want to go back and have surgery again, but I would say it was overall a very good experience. So even though I obviously was questioning not so much the surgeon's expertise as such or his experience, but essentially what it's going to involve and what it's going to entail, mainly because I've never had that surgery before. Dodging tough questions, so this comes to the second point, which is exactly what I mentioned. So when a patient pushes back, stay calm and curious, don't get defensive. You might often get, say for example, if you're in the mental health space, a lot of patients might say to you that certain medications don't work for them because of side effects, or it might make their symptoms worse, or whatever the case may be. So instead of pushing medication or one particular form of treatment down, or you're sort of pushing them to pursue that one particular route, what you can do is say to the patient that let's look into other options and see which one sort of works best for you. Let's incorporate some holistic sort of methods that might get you to a better place mentally and emotionally. Speak with certainty and avoid apologizing unless it's absolutely necessary. Instead of saying something like, I think maybe you should try this, which sounds very vague and as if you don't know what you're talking about, this is what I would recommend and here's why I believe this would work best for you. And always be aware that your grammar or your accent is not the issue, but it's the way in which you deliver and carry out the message of what you're trying to see when it comes to communicating with patients. Stating, over-apologizing and feeling invisible, and shrinking yourself every time you're in consultation with a patient. And on the other hand, also just feeling entitled to or demanding respect from a patient. If you start to communicate with more calm conviction and not perfection, patients will start to lean in and your colleagues will start to respect you more, and you will learn to respect yourself more as well as a healthcare professional. So you don't have to speak like a native speaker in order to command respect, but you have your presence, how you show up, and what really advocating for what you believing in as a healthcare professional, and also giving that empowerment to your patients, that to get them to believe in themselves as well. It's the best way in which you can actually command the respect of your patients. So hope that these tips were useful for you. Now, before we wrap up today's video, just gonna mention that I do have a website up for my coaching practice now, and as well as that, there is an option for you to do a quiz that basically talks about looks into what your default communication persona is. And let me remind you, none of these personas are right or wrong. It's just who you are. The important part is that how you can leverage that in the different ways that I cover, not just on this channel, but also on my coaching services. How you can work around that as a healthcare professional to still, again, command the respect from your patients and build credibility, influence, authority, and trust with them. So if that interests you, definitely check out the website and also have a crack at the quiz. It's very easy. It's a quick one. You'll get the results via email, and let me know how you go with that. Any other feedback, comments, or thoughts are always, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to stay updated with more videos on this topic and several others in the space of communication in the healthcare industry. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence, and I shall see you next week.